All right, got a few questions for y'all. How many of you guys have ever heard of a young man by the name of Cole Dammit? D-A-M-M-E-T-T, I promise. Nobody? Not surprising. The most famous role he ever had was in the movie Fist with Sylvester Stallone. Not a big deal. Same person. How many of you guys have ever heard of Tony, later Anthony Kiedis? That's a little bit easier. How many of you guys have heard anything off of this album, Stadium Arcadium, Red Hot Chili Peppers? You've heard Anthony Kiedis' voice. He is the lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I've been a huge fan of RHCP for a long time. And but to really understand Anthony Kiedis and his music is to understand what he was going through during the time that he was writing all of his music, primarily drug use. So what we're going to look at is 3 different portions of his life and the drug use and the impact that had on his career within that time span. First, when Anthony Kiedis, according to his book, Scar Tissue, plug for buying book. I have a deal with Barnes & Noble. You know. Anthony Kiedis began using drugs at the age of 11. His father, he moved out to Hollywood with his father, and his father at the time was a major league drug addict. He was a drug dealer, and by the age of 14, Anthony was already addicted to heroin, cocaine, marijuana, alcohol, and Quaaludes. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Quaaludes, thank you. He was 14. During this time, this was also when he started to meet Michael, known now as Flea Balzari, and Hillel Slovak at Fairfax High School in LA. And so these guys met and they began writing music, they began becoming best friends, and obviously starting to form the Red Hot Chili Peppers. During this time, Anthony was just on a spree of drug use, on a spree of just being a complete rebel, and that is directly seen in his music. There's one of the bigger songs they had at the time was called Police Helicopter. I can't make this stuff up. During this time, Flea was constantly trying to get him off of hard drugs, so heroin and cocaine have been listed as the 2 most dangerous drugs known to man by the Department of Narcotics, by the Firearms, Alcohol, and Drug Use Governing Agency. There's a lot of different agencies regarding drug use, and they all say that heroin and cocaine are bad, so watch out for those things. Anthony was on all of these drugs for a long time until Flea and Hillel confronted him and said, "Hey, we can't do this anymore. You've been skipping practices. You're done. You're out of the band." And so for a little while, Anthony Kiedis was actually not a member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. During this time, this kind of brought to light that he should really stop. So he went back to Michigan with his mother, and he went to Salvation Army and he started cleaning up. He was there for 20 days, and afterwards, and I'll read, this is a straight quote. After 20 days, I went back to my mom's house in Lowell, feeling a hell of a lot better, different than when I came. At age 24, I was totally clean for the first time since I was 11 years old. There. So that lasted a whopping 50 days. After 50 days of sobriety, he decided that it was a good number and so that he should celebrate. And this led to a massive relapse. And this would be the time that he would have the inspiration for songs such as Under the Bridge, which is the first song on their Greatest Hits album. And he had just some of the most raw music of all time during that area. For the next year and a half, he would continue to feed his addiction. And then he was at his house one day, and when he got a call that Hillel Slovak, one of his best friends and one of the other founding members of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, had died of a heroin overdose, and he was completely downtrodden. He actually went to Mexico for a while. He couldn't even bring himself to go to the funeral. And so after that, he really was scared straight. He would spend 28 days in ASAP in Van Nuys, California, and this would lead to the longest amount of time that he was ever clean, which was 5 years until last time, which is still going on. So he would have been clean for the rest of his life until a dentist he had to have a surgery on a tooth, and a dentist gave him a really strong painkiller that ended up being an opiate. And that opiate actually got him re-hooked on more opiates, including heroin, and then that just led to a massive spree of cocaine use and everything. And it was a very, very tough time, but out of that time we get songs such as Californication, Danny California, a lot of some of his best works. So for the next 8 years, he'd be in and out of over 7 rehab centers, including one of the most famous ones called Impact in Pasadena, and it was there that he started to get better. So in conclusion, Anthony Kiedis, in my opinion, is one of the greatest musicians of all time. I could not listen to him enough, and I think that looking at drug use that he went through and what he's overcome is really a credit to him.